Hey, this is King Jimmy Un-Author-ized, and I just want to ask you a simple question today. Do you like God simply because He gives you all sorts of great stuff? Well, do you? Back in the day when I was in my mid-20s, I was very broke, and I had a hard time as a result getting a date. And I used to joke around that if I only made $10,000 more a year, then I would be $10,000 more attractive. And I like to tell the story of how when I was broke, I couldn't get a date, but then shortly after I got a nice cushy job as an underwriter at a bank, making about $10,000 more a year. And all of a sudden, I started getting dates all over the place. You know, it was just raining girls. I became $10,000 more attractive. And then I like to joke that I got a promotion at work, and then that brought another, $10,000 or so. And then all of a sudden, I found myself married. Funny how that works, right, gentlemen? Now, I say all that not as some sort of disparaging remark towards my wife or towards any of the women I dated or anything like that. I don't really believe that most of the girls that were dating me or the woman that married me was doing so because all of a sudden I had a little extra money and that made me more attractive. Because really, I was just really crushing it at the gym, in case you couldn't tell. So anyway, but there's this association in our society that we have as men that, the more money we make, the more attractive and better looking we all of a sudden become. All of a sudden, the girl that we could not get, all of a sudden becomes extremely accessible to us. And all of a sudden, women have a tendency to flock to men who all of a sudden have a little cash flow. I saw this once at some of the law firms that I worked at over the years where, some very less than attractive looking attorneys had some very, very attractive high-end looking wives. And I sat there and thought, I wonder how that works. Or we could look at the same with President Donald Trump and his wife. Donald Trump's not exactly a looker, but he looks a lot better when he whips out his checkbook and throws down some cash on the table. Am I right? Probably. So anyway, I only say all this to illustrate a point that we have this sort of thing in our society where men become more attractive based off the things that they are able to provide the women in their lives. That money, is symbolic in many senses. It represents stability and, the ability to provide and the sort of things that women often look for in men. And it's not just purely based on looks. I would hate for it to be anything shallow, like, a woman just loving me for the way I look. and we get that. We understand that's kind of how society works. Well, it's often the same way with God at the end of the day. I think a lot of people are attracted to God and the idea of serving God and being blessed by God. And they like the idea of being in relationship with God because we perceive God is going to enhance our life. We perceive God has a lot of money, and that's very attractive to a lot of people. He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, so I know Jehovah-Jireh, my provider, will come through for me at the end of the day. And we like God because of not only because who he is. Yeah, he's a great guy. He gives me laughs and giggles. But we like God because he brings a sense of blessing and enhancement to our life. We feel like God blesses us and God provides for us and God takes care of us and God showers us with all sorts of wonderful gifts and it affords us a very affluent and upwardly mobile lifestyle, all because we serve God. Well, I think that's honestly how, as Americans, a lot of us think. We think of God kind of as our sugar daddy. Well, the prophet Zechariah was faced with this same issue. If you read Zechariah chapter 7, you'll see that some individuals approached the priest and the prophets after having been in exile for 70 years. And for 70 years, the Jews had built this tradition during their exile that they would fast in the 5th month in the remembrance of the sacking of Jerusalem. And Zechariah, when he was approached, they asked Zechariah, should we continue this fast? I know we've laid the foundation of the temple, but should we continue this fast in remembrance of the past? And Zechariah, answers their question by asking another question. He's like, well, you guys who were in exile all these 70 years, mourning the loss of Jerusalem, mourning the loss of your homeland, mourning the prosperity that you guys once enjoyed as a people, was it for me that you fasted all these years? Or was it rather for the stuff that I gave you? And I think that's a question that we ultimately need to ask of ourselves about our relationship with God, or even the relationship we have with people in our lives. Because God, kind of like, you and me, doesn't want to be just used for the things he can provide, and the blessings and the money and the prosperity and the success and all the things we associate with, the good things we associate with following God. God doesn't want to be used much in the same way as I don't want to be used. And my wife and I, we got married. I was very convinced that my wife wasn't marrying me for money or status or blessing or any sort of thing like that, but that she was married me because she genuinely loved me and wanted to be with me, and that I was a source of joy for her and her life. And that's why she ultimately married me, because she saw me as a good man, as a man that she could be in relationship with, a man that she would enjoy being with all the rest of her days, through thick and thin, through rich and poor, through sickness and health, that she would be with me. Well, I think we need to have the same attitude with God. Are you willing to be with God simply because he provides for you and blesses you and showers you with wonderful things? Or are you willing to be with God through thick and thin, through times of lack, through times of sickness and health, and richer or poor? Are you willing to be with God in the same way that you're willing to be with your spouse? Or are you only willing to be with God and to serve him simply because he blesses you and provides you with wonderful stuff and gives you a life that you think is deserving of you and yourself? Hey, this is Jimmy. Happy Monday, everybody. Ponder these questions. Let me know what you think. Have a good day.